We are currently on day 3 of NFL Free Agency, but we do have a major Miami Dolphins salary cap update. Some of these signings that Miami made earlier in the week, their contract details have come out, and it is actually something very positive if you are a Miami Dolphins fan. Before we get into those details, I wanted to go through what the Dolphins and Chris Grier have done so far in free agency. The first move they made was re-signing a practice squad guy, Matt Dickerson, but then later on the Monday afternoon, things got started with Zach Wilson being signed to a 1-year, $10 million deal, up to $10 million, but it's $6 million guaranteed, so incentives could get that up to double digits. Then they get their prized offensive lineman, James Daniels, on a 3-year, $24 million deal. He's slotted in to be one of your starting guards, preferably right guard. You get a swing tackle, your Kendall Lamb replacement in Larry Borum. Also can be a versatile depth piece on the interior of your offensive line. Then a pair of interesting names here. Ifeatu Melifonwu, 1-year, $4 million deal, comes over from the Detroit Lions. You re-sign two cheap guys that work on special teams, but also depth pieces, and Elijah Campbell and Quentin Bell. And then go out and sign a pretty solid wide receiver, 6'2", 210 pounds, Nick Westbrook-Akini, 2-year, $6.5 million deal. He'll be your third wide receiver that primarily plays on the outside, will be a red zone threat as well. You have a really nice wide receiver room, in my opinion, with Hill, Waddle, Westbrook-Akini, and Malik Washington. And then the two most recent signings, the one coming in this morning on Tyrell Dodson, and then also late yesterday, safety Ashton Davis. Miami has signed two safeties now, two cheap 1-year contracts. Dodson comes back on $4.1 million per year, but a couple of these contract details have been shared, which we'll talk about in just a second. But after we go through all these signings, I want to let you know that if you haven't already, to hit that sub button, because we have covered every single signing the Miami Dolphins have made, whether it is a YouTube short, whether it is a full video. We have you covered on every single move the Dolphins make. We are 18 subscribers away from a big milestone of 68,000. Let's get there on today's video. Hit that sub button for the #1 Dolphins News and Rumors YouTube channel out there. All right, based off some other projections, and now that the new league year has basically begun, the current Miami Dolphins cap space sits at $10.9 million. So they don't have a ton of space, and we know they have a lot of moves that they still need to make, whether it's signing a boundary corner, addressing that left guard spot in free agency as well. You also only have really one defensive lineman on your roster, that being Zach Sealer. So you need to sign multiple defensive linemen. You need to grab another corner, preferably another offensive guard. So there are moves that have to be made, and the Dolphins don't have a ton of cap space right now, but I would expect Miami to make some more moves. But I did want to share some of these contract details of the new signings for Miami. This one being James Daniels' contract. Now, these numbers are from Over the Cap. You see on the left side of your screen, it's a 3-year deal. The base and cap hit of the 3 seasons for James Daniels. And on the right side of your screen, you're seeing the dead money and cap savings if Miami were to release Daniels. Now, the thing that I like about this season in 2025 is that it is a backloaded contract. So only having a $3.4 million cap hit for Daniels this season makes you able to sign potentially some other starters and save some cap room there. Yeah, he has a larger cap hit over the next 2 seasons, basically the same base in each year and the same cap hit in 26 and 27. But you see the cap savings that you could have if he is released on the right side of your screen as well. It's not a contract that you are tied to with a lot of guaranteed money. That is why I really like this contract for James Daniels. One, I believe he is a really good guard and is someone that Miami has been targeting for multiple seasons due to his profile as a good zone run block scheme guy, someone who is athletic, can get to the outside, get to the second level, is a mauler in the run game. Remember, he was the highest graded offensive lineman in run blocking from PFF in the first 4 weeks of the season before he tore his Achilles. He is expected to make a full recovery and be back for June, be back for training camp in July and August. So I'm not concerned about the injury to this point, but the reason why I like this contract even more is because you saw the numbers on the right side of your screen just a second ago. The savings if you release James Daniels, those were all pre-June 1, by the way, are pretty solid. You only take on $4 million in dead cap. You save 5.8 next year. The next year after that, you only take about $2 million in dead cap, and you would save $7.8 million in savings. So if James Daniels ultimately cannot stay on the football field, he is always hurt over the next season, or just flat out stinks and isn't able to come out and get back to himself after the torn Achilles, you can wipe your hands and move on from him, no problem. This contract for James Daniels is very advantageous for the Miami Dolphins. I think Chris Grier did an excellent job with signing Daniels for that 3-year deal, but the way he structured it as well makes me very, very happy. We went through the 10 signings Miami has made so far in free agency, a couple re-signings, exterior guys. Which one has been your favorite up to this point? Miami will still make moves, but drop which player that the Dolphins signed in free agency is your favorite. When you factor in the contract, I think James Daniels and the position of need is my favorite one. Let's get over to Melifonwu now, the safety jumping over from the Detroit Lions. His was only a 1-year deal, but his cap number is very good for Miami as well. Now, per over the cap, his base salary is only about $1.1 mil. He got $1.2 mil at signing bonus, which only gives him a cap hit of $2.5 million for this season. That is very good for someone who figures to be either safety number 2 for Miami or that safety number 3. We'll see which one between him and Ashtyn Davis ultimately becomes safety 2 and safety 3. Them signing both of them tells me there's an open competition for that role. The other will just be that guy in rotation, and then they'll likely draft a safety in the first 2 or 3 rounds to be that other starting guy. But Melifonwu, in his career, has not played a lot of games, only 100 or 874 snaps. That is almost a full season. He's played 4 years. So he's been a depth piece in the Detroit Lions system, has missed almost half the games. He's one of those guys, once again, it sucks to say, but if he stays healthy, he can be good because look at his coverage numbers. They're solid, man. 60% completion percentage, 2 interceptions, only a QB rating of 100.2. Like, these numbers are good. When he was drafted out of Syracuse in 2021 in the 3rd round, he played corner primarily in his first season, but then transitioned to safety in his limited playing time in Detroit over the last 3 seasons. And his tackling isn't the best either. Now, he did have a missed tackle rate of 13.5%. This is his career, by the way, not just one season. Remember, Javon Holland last year had a 17% missed tackle rate. He missed 12 tackles just last year. Melifonwu in his career has only missed 10. So he is a little bit of a better tackler, in my opinion, than Holland. I don't expect him to be better than Javon, but I do think Melifonwu will be a good piece in this Dolphins secondary. And one thing that I like about him is his versatility. I think Anthony Weaver is going to find a lot of different ways to use him. He's almost a Swiss Army knife. He can line up in almost any position. Throughout his career, he has done that to a massive degree. He's lined up at free safety the most, 277 snaps. But as I said, he started as a corner coming out as a rookie, 206 snaps there, but has played in the box 237 times, played in the slot as a nickel guy 138 times. I personally love versatility. I preach that in life. I preach that in the sports business. The more versatile you can become, the more of an asset you will be to your company, to your football team. Melifonwu is a Swiss Army knife. He is versatile. I really like this signing. And with his cap hit only being $2.5 million this season, that will allow Miami to get an Ashtyn Davis. It will allow Miami to maybe go out and get another offensive guard. This is a good signing by Chris Grier. I was a little skeptical at first because I didn't like that he was going to be maybe one of those top 2 safeties, but I am growing on the signing of Ifeatu Melifonwu. All right, more to get to here in just a second, but we are sponsored by PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform out there. I play PrizePicks every single day, and hopefully you join me because the month of March is when real basketball begins, and it is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million users. Sign up today. When you get your entry correct, you can get safe, fast, secure withdrawals. You can get in as quick as 15 minutes. They also offer weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, East Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts, select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. You can play professional basketball, college basketball. It's a big month for college basketball. You go hockey, you go baseball when that starts up at the end of the month. I've got a professional entry tonight between the Heat and Clippers. More than Bam Adebayo, 3.5 free throws made. More than Tyler Hero, 17.5 12.5 field goals attempted, more than Zubac, 12.5 rebounds, and then more than James Harden, 34 points and assists. A little aggressive here, going with the more than a lot of these. But you can join me and the millions of others right now. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That link and promo code and is in the description or comments of today's video. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay, so the Dolphins, as we noted earlier, some of those contract details come out. Miami right now only has $10.9 million in cap space. That is the projection as of right now. Things might change when more contract details come out when the new league year begins today. I still think the Dolphins will make more moves, not only in free agency, but with contract restructures, because they do have to address other positions like cornerback, maybe another offensive lineman on the interior. They have to get defensive linemen as well. I am keeping an eye on Jordan Brooks, Zach Sealer, and Austin Jackson. Those three could be restructured, and those three could net Miami close to $16 million in more cap space if they restructured all three of them. All three of those players I expect to be still playing at a relatively high level over the next 2 seasons. So I think it would be worth it for Miami to restructure those guys to create cap space, not only to give you breathing room so you can sign your draft class, which you have 11 draft picks in, by the way, and you can go out and sign more free agents at positions of need. Now, if they did make those contract restructures, who are some of the targets still out there that I think Miami could go after? Well, if you want to get a starting level left guard to really complete your offensive line going into the draft, at least in a term of a veteran base, these are the top 5 targets in my opinion. I think the Dolphins really could go after Kevin Zeitler or Brandon Scherf. Those 2 veterans can slot in right away at left guard, 1 year, $5 million contracts. Those guys know what they're doing, would create a solid, stable interior, and then you could draft an interior offensive lineman in day 2 of the draft rather than day 1, and have them sit behind Zeitler or Scherf and then learn from them. But if you want to go a little bit different, you go Jenkins, take the swing on him. He's good when he plays, but he's injured a lot. I think Becton's ultimately too pricey, but Will Hernandez could be a 2-year, $13 million deal potentially where Miami takes a swing on him as he's coming off of a big-time injury. But cornerback is arguably the biggest need for the Dolphins at this point right now. Rasul Douglas, Asante Samuel Jr. are the top 2 guys out there, in my opinion, for Miami. If they wanted to go a cheap veteran route, Stephon Gilmore, Jonathan Jones are there as well. Former New England Patriots have been around the block. Gilmore can still play. And I think if time goes on, now this wouldn't happen this week. It probably won't even happen next week. But if Kendall Fuller's still out there in 3 weeks, maybe even after the NFL draft in early May, I could see Miami trying to bring back Kendall Fuller. He's got $5 million in dead money this season. You bring him back on a vet min deal, you're paying him anyway. Might as well try to get him on the roster again. He played well in the 11 games that he was on the field, just dealt with a couple concussions, which was a little bit concerning. Plus, he is 30 years old. But I could see Miami spinning the block on Kendall Fuller. And then at the defensive line, the number one thing that I want Miami to do is re-sign Calais Campbell. I've been very open about that. The 2 players that I want the Dolphins to bring back the most in free agency, Tyrell Dodson and Calais Campbell. They did that earlier today with Tyrell Dodson to be your linebacker too. The next player needs to be Calais Campbell. I know he's 38 years old, but he was a rock on your defensive line last season, was excellent alongside Zach Sealer. I would expect Miami to draft the defensive lineman in the first 3 rounds of the draft. You get him learning behind Campbell and then him taking over with Campbell alongside Zach Sealer next year. That's a good way to go. I think Deshaun Hand could be re-signed as well. And then Levi is someone we've talked about quite a bit as an exterior target for the Miami Dolphins, but it seems like Chris Grier is kind of in a holding pattern waiting to see what Calais Campbell ultimately wants to do. All right, we showed you 13 free agents that are still out there at 3 positions of need for Miami. Which player should the Dolphins sign next in free agency? Get down in the comments section, put your GM hat on, and let me know what Chris Grier should do. And as we round out today's show, I want to make this abundantly clear. I actually really like what Chris Grier has done in free agency so far. The 10 signings, let's make it 9, take away Matt Dickerson. Quentin Bell's a solid depth piece at edge, could also play special teams. Elijah Campbell, good depth defensive back, special teams ace. You get your backup quarterback in Zach Wilson. I like the upside there. I think Mike McDaniel's going to be able to coach him up. You got your starting offensive lineman with James Daniels. You got your depth offensive lineman, Kendall Lamb replacement in Larry Borum, and you got 2 safeties in Melifonwu and Ashton Davis that will be either your safety 2 or safety 3 and create a well-rounded room alongside a rookie, Patrick Morris, and Elijah Campbell. I like those moves that Miami made, especially at wide receiver 2 and Nick Westbrook-Ikini, but we do need another defensive lineman, and a lot of them. There's only one on the roster, as I mentioned earlier, with Zach Sealer, and you need a starting cornerback, opposite of Jalen Ramsey on the boundary. Really, really bad. Those are the 2 moves that I would make next. I know a lot of people are going to clamor for the offensive line, but when you look at the roster, CB2 and defensive line, those are the 2 that need to be addressed ASAP. Let's hope Chris Grier gets it done. And if the Dolphins do make another move soon, we will have you covered with a video. So hit that sub button, lock us in here at Dolphins Today for the top Dolphins coverage on YouTube.